The first question that I have for you is that there's a critique on higher education that the costs are rising so high that it's not accessible for most people, and that even if it is, we're lading these graduates with a lot of debt that they have to work through. What is your response to that?
Well, I'll start with, there's several things. First of all, when I started, we were generating, I think, about $80 million internally generated for financial aid for students. That's now $138 million, so that helps. I think we should counsel our students more on what they should take and shouldn't take. I think we ought to have some kind of a little screening process when if you're going to borrow money. What are you going to borrow it for? You're going to borrow for a vacation or a new car, or are you going to borrow it to pay your tuition fees, room and board? So I think we need to work with people on that. Now, one of my favorite entrepreneurs is Jake Jabs, who I understand is coming to talk to you soon. And Jake is a real piece of work. And Jake told me I never had any debt. I always worked when I was in school. Everybody should work part-time. And I will tell you, when I was at Boulder, I'd go out and work on drilling rigs at night. You know, not every night, but, you know, a couple of nights a week maybe, to help pay for my college education. So I think people can start being more sensible about it. Don't borrow money you shouldn't have. And my real big pet peeve is this, and that is, if you take a kid into school, you have a responsibility to keep that kid in school and get them a degree. And sending kids home with a pile of debt and no degree is immoral. And I just can't tell you how upset I get about that. And in some higher ed meetings, when I say things like this, maybe we should be responsible for some of the debt of our students if they're going to default on it. And that's, oh my God, you know, I really get a shock here. But so I feel like we have to do a better job. I don't think we do as good a job as we can. But I want to tell you something else about the cost going up. The Boulder faculty average about $128,000 a year. Okay, and that's for some of the people making $250 and all those big numbers and some of these other programs. What is that up against? Michigan, $158,000 a year average. UCLA at Berkeley, $185 and $190, as I recall. Now that's our competition. When we want to be a great institution, we have to have great faculty, and we've got to keep the wages up as much as we can. You can sell Colorado part of the time. You can't sell it totally, so you're going to have to raise some of these tuitions. We've worked hard to hold them down. This last year, I think we were probably 3.5, 3.6% increase across all the campuses. And we held them down. Some of the people were still going 6%, 8%. So we're going to continue to fight to hold these down and do everything we can and bring in money from all these sources. And when people say, well, you're funding these out-of-state students and international students with our money, well, the answer really is at Boulder, the tuition fee is about $10,500, as I recall. The cost of giving an education at Boulder is about $25,000. The state gives us $3,000 or so. So, you know, we're short $10,000. So what are we going to do? We bring in international students, and if you looked at the charts, which I could go out and read this thing to you if you wanted to hear it, but I won't, unless you insist. And you've got to explain to people that those people, those internationals and those non-residents, they're paying for our Colorado residents. And that's why we keep driving it. And we're doing, I'm talking about Boulder, all of our campuses now are recruiting. And when we do things with foreign governments just to have the inside track to get more students in here. So we're doing everything we can right now. Well, not everything. There's more stuff.
I think you need to use that 5% number. I think that's what makes
Oh. Why don't you get up here and give a speech, lady? Well, if you look at this, you know, $3.3 billion, and we got $167 million. That's about 5% of our budget comes from the state. I've even used the line of we used to be state funded, then we're state supported, and we're about to get to be state located. And that's about where we are. And people say, I was having this discussion last night, the guy said, why don't you just go private? I said, well, you got to have a vote of the people because we're in the Constitution, and on and on and on. And you better have a hell of a lot of money if you want to try to get this thing to go private. Does that work, honey? Thank you. You can correct me anytime you want.